The spring session's over. Now time to put away 5 and 5 from 2020 and get on to the hand of competing for the SEC championship. We got Lon Phillips Sullivan on the line talking LSU football. The Tigers took to the field for their annual spring game in Death Valley. 1 year after spring games were wiped out across the country, it's good to see everybody in play, most of the SEC. This is the Saturday, including for the Bayou Bengals. Lon, how are we doing today?
It was great to see our Tigers again, Mark. So, of course, we're doing fantastic. How about you, my man?
I am doing well. And want to get the lowdown from you on what was meaningful, what mattered out there. I know Joe Burrow was not in uniform. He's got a rehab to work on himself and hopefully a better offensive line in front of him in 2021. But there for LSU, what stood out? We'll start there because I didn't see a play. So thank you for the link to the stream. And this is a complaint before we get into your analysis across college football and specifically in the SEC with everybody but Alabama playing on these SEC alternate networks and it being, you having to have a degree in espionage to be able to find where to watch a spring football game. Goodness.
Well, then my degree is still hopping, baby, because we were able to track that down and spread it to as many people as possible. It made me really glad to get as many people to be able to see the Tigers as possible, despite the stupid network agreements and contracts and all that. We were able to make it happen. LSU went out there, Mark. It was fun.
So what were the highlights?
I'd say John Trey Kirkland. I mean, this guy comes out there and goes for 16 catches and 209 yards and 2 scores. I mean, he's just making unbelievable catches from every quarterback, making these just giant, just skyscraping catches and getting all this yards after the catch, putting on the afterburners. This guy has speed for days. He's another super senior. A lot of people are talking about Dre Jenkins and a lot of different guys for that second wide receiver spot, Coy Moore, Trey Palmer, as we brought up last time. But once again, that's what I love about LSU is just as a fan too, is just the product is always so beautiful because you've got, the next man up could be the best man up. John Trey Kirkland going in there, it's his time, 16 catches, 209 yards from, making incredible grabs from every single quarterback, on display. I just couldn't say enough for the young man. Unbelievable display. And then you had this really interesting duel between Max Johnson and Miles Brennan. It looked like Miles Brennan was taking the lead there for a bit. He made this sick bomb touchdown to Kayshon Boutte. And, I think preceding that was another big play to Kayshon Boutte. And, before that, the LSU defense had just been absolutely mauling this offensive unit. And so, Miles kind of set Tiger Stadium alive and kind of got the team going, at least offensively. And, but then, Max Johnson gets into a big rhythm. And I think he completed it was 5 straight passes, ending in a touchdown, one after another. He was just slinging it all over the place. I think even the 2 sacks against him, one of those, he was definitely escaping the play anyway. And, obviously with the rule, they blew it dead, but he was escaping that play as well. Showed some great burst as well in the backfield, just able to kind of maneuver in that pocket, extend that pocket, kind of extend his base of operations in a way. I don't know how he was able to do that. Some of the plays he was making out there are very subtle. It's not like, look at me, I'm Max Johnson, look at the show I'm putting on. It's very team-oriented, very team-focused, but I loved what I saw from 180 yards, I believe it was. Let me look that up to get it. 111 out of 17 for 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. Miles Brennan finished 12 of 20 for 116 yards, 1 touchdown. But then, Mark, came the avalanche of turnovers. 2 interceptions from TJ Finley, who went 10 of 19 for 84. Garrett Nussmeier, 3 picks, 1 touchdown. 15 to 25 for 132 yards. Even though Nussmeier kind of let it loose with the 3 picks, I thought he made some stunning plays in the backfield, extending the play and then, making a few really gutty completions there. But LSU, man, this defense, Mark, I think, 6 turnovers they created, 5 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery. You saw Derek Stingley with the sideline interception. That's his 3rd, potentially 4th interception of spring. We know he had multiple picks before then. Jay Ward with his 4th pick of the season. Unbelievable. He even intercepted one that bounced off of a guy's chest who just barely stepped out of bounds. And he just quickly reacted and caught it up here for the pick in the end zone. And, of course they didn't count it, but you could hear Jay Ward freaking out, screaming into the camera, because it was just a very sick play that he made right there. He counted or not, he knows what he did out there. Just stack him up, Mark. Raydarius Jones had his first interception ever for LSU. This is his 3rd season with the Tigers, national champion freshman, alongside Jay Ward and Derek Stingley Jr., who all had picks. So you saw that 2019 class of DBU really show up today with 3 interceptions. But then you saw 2 linebackers pick interceptions up. Antoine Sampah coming into his 2nd season, high points to the ball. I think it was on a Nussmeier pass. Brilliant interception for Sampah. Huge play from him today. Derek Davis Jr. scoops one up after John Trey Kirkland uncharacteristically fumbled the ball. 16 catches over 200 yards, and then he did fumble it, and Derek Davis Jr. was right there, Johnny on the spot. But Jared Small, Mark. Jared Small. This guy was not even talked about. He's a really close friend of Clyde Edwards-Helaire from Catholic High, Baton Rouge native. Everybody's rooting for this guy. He'd always been in the shadows, kind of another 2019 freshman or maybe 2018 freshman, actually. So he's been with the team for quite some time. Obviously a national championship, but kind of a sideline dude. And Jared Small came out number 58 and just pummeled people in the face. Excited as I was about Jack Mashburn on offense, you take that type of excitement and that type of just total rooting for the guy and you move it over to the defense, and you got a guy like Jared Small. Jared Small, 15 tackles, 1 interception, 2 pass breakups, and 2 tackle for losses. This guy was just in the backfield at all times, stuffing plays, initiating the gang tackles. He was all over the place, Mark. Brilliant display from Jared Small. 10 of those tackles were solo. Just absolutely stunning. Damone Clark picked up 12 tackles today. He did look like the leader of that defense. It was fantastic to see him do that. Josh White, 5 solo tackles. All 5 tackles were solo. It was great to see number 10 kind of back me up there when he came up off the bench and just absolutely blasted some people. Sadly, Bug Strong was out for today's scrimmage. He was a late scratch, believed to be not serious injury, but there was no chances being taken. But that was a real hurting thing to not see him. But to be more in general, Mark, what stood out? That defense, baby. That defense was kicking ass and taking names. I think it was 13 passes defended today, 5 interceptions total. Just brilliant. And the sacks. I think there's 6. Let's count them here. 6, 7, 8, 9. Around 9, 10 sacks today, Mark. Jaquelin Roy had 4 himself. And then B.J. Ojolari had a pair. Neil Farrell had 1. Jacobian Guillory had a big sack as well and a tackle for loss. Just expert defense today. Joseph Evans, he did not look like the best defensive lineman on the team, but outwardly, but on this, that's just on the surface. But when you watch what was going along on the penetration on the defensive line, Joseph Evans, whether he's the best defensive lineman or not, he's pretty damn good. he was influencing a ton in there. Mark, what stood out to me was that defensive line was doing a lot of this. Instead of just rushing on the outside, interior guys kind of stuffing and plugging the gap, which is just so easy to be able to game plan those protections against. You saw a lot of inside to out, outside to in, a lot of weird stunting, a lot of bizarre maneuvers going on there, Mark. I mean, Andre Carter is going to be tripping defensive coordinators out worse than a Grateful Dead show in the middle of 67. This guy he's going to have their head spinning, man.
If you noticed while you were describing that defensive play, I was just making sure that everyone understood sacks. We're putting the sacks in quotes. Most of the sacks that I've seen during these spring games, and I've seen quite a few now, Ohio State, Florida State, NC State, Miami, Clemson, a lot of these phantom sacks, but that's the way it is. You're going to protect the quarterbacks. So 4 of them played today. How many interceptions were in this game? It sounded like at the beginning of your dissertation, 10.
No, 5.
I could, seemed like it was going to take you 45 minutes just to describe all these interceptions.
Exactly, Mark. It was outrageous.
Is that a good thing?
You know, it only came from 2 of our quarterbacks, and it came from the 2 quarterbacks I expected the interceptions to come from, to be honest. Came from the freshman who's just letting it fly, who's just a total riverboat gambler out there. And then you got TJ Finley, who's had a problem with turnovers for a while. Oh, Lon, while Small was impressive, we didn't see Strong or Mike Jones Jr. Clark is pretty much penciled in too, but should be. Small was impressive, yeah, but that's my point, Devin, is that Small was fantastic when he really shouldn't be. So the point is you got just a layer of depth there. And if Jared Small is going to come into the spring game and pick up 15 tackles, that's outrageous.
Thank you for the question, Devin. We'll remind everyone else just to take up where Devin left off. You can leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics there in the live chat, and I will pass them on to Lon, and we'll dive in on the ones that I can answer as well, depending on the scope of the questions. So, Lewis Papp, it's just a spring game. Wait until they play Bama.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Even Alabama is a far away from playing us. Okay, a lot of things are going to change between now and then. I'm not afraid of Alabama. I don't think LSU's players are afraid of Alabama at all either. You go out there and you look at them. You saw an absolute. This defense was straight up mummifying people out there, Mark. They're straight up just testifying, as I said they would. This defense is going to let Alabama's Bryce Young do a damn thing out there come November. I think this defense is absolutely brilliant. 124th to 4th might be possible.
So wait a minute. We're going to back up about 3 sentences. This LSU defense is not going to allow Bryce Young to do a damn thing in November?
It looks like it, Mark. It looks like it. I mean, this defense is unbelievable. We have the best quarterback room in the country. He shut down all 4 pretty much.
Wait a minute. Who's got the best quarterback room in the country?
LSU.
Who's got the best quarterback room in the country?
LSU.
Ohio State? Oklahoma?
We got 4 guys, baby. 4.
I don't think your top 3 guys can play with Ohio State.
We'll see that when the college football playoff comes around.
Okay. So I'm going to jot down. Let me do this right now. Okay. LSU plays Alabama sometime in November. They typically do, right? Maybe the first or second week of November. So this is what we're gonna take a record of this. Everybody that's watching, hopefully about 1,000 or a couple thousand people by the time we post and so forth.
Take note.
I'm going to take note. I'm going to take a shot at Bryce Young's statistics against LSU.
Okay. Because that's the thing is Tua threw about 400 yards against us, when we beat them at their place. But here's the thing. He also threw for 17 incompletions and was extremely ineffective. And that was against one of our more average defenses.
Tua was ineffective?
Yeah.
Now, you had a big first half. You took a big lead at halftime, yes.
That 5-point win is, 46-41. That's very deceptive. It's very deceptive. There was a last-second touchdown there where Stingley fell down that made it look better. Stingley also fell down for another interception. Both times were complete incidental plays. Look at the numbers. Look at the performance. Tua was extremely ineffective against our secondary on third down in that showdown. That has nothing to do with what we're going to do this season with Bryce Young, though. That has nothing to do with it. This is a totally different season. Bryce Young's a totally different quarterback. And here's the thing. Let's don't anoint Bryce Young like he's, the god of quarterbacks. This will be his first year starting. I know how good Bryce Young is. Believe me. Coming out of Matter Day, he's an absolute freak show. I've been educated beyond reason by Rashad Davis. Race John Davis's father. He's told me everything there is about Bryce Young. But here's the thing. That LSU defense is just looking incredible. I want to see what they'll do against Bryce Young. Here's the thing. It all comes down to the trenches. It's not even going to really be Bryce Young versus our defense. It'll be our defensive line versus Alabama's offensive line. That's what that game will be about.
I'm going to take my stat line to the air. That's my Bryce Young stat line against LSU in November.
72 yards rushing. Here's the thing. This is what this defense showed us today. I know it's just a spring game, but 2020 LSU defense was a complete anomaly. There were so many factors that went into those horrendous performances. Just an outrageous, abundant, disgusting nature of factors going on in that defense, and why that defense looked so horrible. That's not going to happen this year, not with Durante Jones. There's accountability all over that team. Devin Young.
Devin Young, I feel like the defensive line had a better game due to the lack of the run game. They were able to pin their ears back and set off on the quarterback the entire time.
I kind of disagree there, Devin. I wouldn't say there was a lack of a running game. Ty Davis-Price had 76 yards off 15 carries and bursted a few for over 25 yards on him. So I wouldn't say a lack of a running game. John Emery Jr. was, banged up on the sideline. We got like three running backs on the team. We had linebacker Nick Demas taking carries. We had Coy Moore taking carries, a receiver. So when Ty Davis-Price is basically the only workhorse running back in there, the only real running back in there with Trey Bradford, Josh Williams all down as well. Corin Norman is also out as well. Ty Davis-Price is the only healthy running back, and he's had 76 rushing yards. So, and he's just coming back from an injury too. So to say that there's no rushing attack, I have to disagree there.
And I'm not saying this to disparage LSU. I think LSU is one of the top 5 rosters in college football. I'm just saying that I believe Bryce Young, we don't know this at this point. He has yet to take a significant snap or make a significant pass in college football. He's only played in garbage time, but most likely, based on the track record, that by game 10 or 11, that he will be somewhat of a seasoned veteran and will be operating at a high level in Bill O'Brien's offense, and that Alabama juggernaut on offense will be humming.
Well, here's the thing. Unlike Alabama, our offense and our coordinators, our quarterback, they all have some familiarity. George Munoz, he knows those guys. He knows Miles Brennan. He recruited Garrett Nussmeier. He recruited TJ Finley. He recruited Max Johnson. So did DJ Mangus. So even though these guys are first year or whatever, actually they're not. A lot of the people on our staff have been there before. And so Jake Peetz is coming in as offensive coordinator, knowing what's up. Bill O'Brien has never even seen Bryce Young. Okay? So like to pretend like Bryce Young is just going to waltz in there and be Dan Marino is an absolute joke, Mark. But then to also say that LSU has no quarterback room and couldn't do it, like that's kind of ridiculous, because I just showed you there's familiarity in that offensive staff with those current quarterbacks. So they're going to do well. It's just the question is, how biased are we going to be pro Alabama before the game actually happens? The question is going to be how much are we going to rip on LSU unfairly? How much are we going to actually watch LSU and actually see what they're doing out there? Or are we just going to say, pencil Bama in? Just pencil them in because they're Alabama. Here's the thing. They won that title last year against the weakest competition you've ever seen in the last 20 years in college football. Everybody knows it. There was nobody out there to stand in their way. Nobody. No one could practice. There was like barely anybody on anyone's roster. Everybody was opting out left and right. Had we had Jamar Chase on our team playing against them, just one player, had we had Jamar Chase still on our team playing against them with, say, Max Johnson starting, I think you actually can put 28 more points on the board for LSU this last December. That's how bad Alabama were. There were chances for TJ Finley to really actually get us into that game early, and he completely blew it, completely pissed himself. That's why LSU lost that game. We threw that game away early and quick. If you have a quarterback who actually takes advantage of opportunities, actually takes advantage of windows, you always have a chance. But once again, LSU's defense were just horrible last year. So Alabama were going to put up 60 or 70 or whatever on us until the cows come home. This year, that ain't happening.
Okay. I just want to put all that in perspective, because Alabama played under the same rules as everyone else. They were restricted of practicing and played under the same rules as everyone else, correct? That's correct.
No.
That's not correct.
No, you can monetarily convince a multitude of players out of opting out, Mark. That's something LSU weren't prepared to do with the NCAA sniffing down every piece of real estate on LSU's campus or everywhere in Baton Rouge, let's just be honest, for a multitude of things, deservedly or undeservedly. Alabama does not have that issue. What Alabama did to keep that 2020 team intact, that'll become a part of college football lore pretty soon here.
Okay. Well, that has remained to be seen. I'm not going to argue or have a discussion based on things that are conjecture. So based on what happened on the field, Alabama clearly had the best team in college football last year. Wasn't even close. And I believe that they played a quality schedule as much as anybody did in the nation. They beat your LSU team by 38 points. And no, I don't believe that Jamar Chase would have been the difference in a 38-point game. They played the likes of Texas A&M and Ole Miss and into the college football playoff or the SEC championship game against Florida, then Notre Dame, Ohio State. And they were clearly the best team in college football and have been the gold standard in the sport for 13 or 14 years. So I'm just stating that. I'm not saying that LSU can't compete with them. They just beat them 2 years ago. I'm not saying that LSU can't win this year. I'm just saying that LSU, I would be shocked if LSU shuts them down. An offense that's been prolific and will continue to be prolific. I see no reason why Alabama won't be continue to be a top 5 offense in college football this year. And I do believe that LSU is a quality quarterback room. I'm just confronting your stance that they clearly have the number 1 quarterback room in the country. I don't see that.
Well, that's fine. I mean, their disagreements or whatever, but I've got all the information to back it up. As far as talent, as far as what they will produce, what they have produced, this is the best quarterback room in the country. Right now, 2 of those guys could transfer, start anywhere. 3 of those guys could transfer, start 90% of the places. It's pretty shocking room that we got there. And I don't expect all 4 to be on roster come September or October. I don't see that. I see one of these guys leaving, but we'll see. We probably won't shut down Alabama's offense. You're probably right there. Probably right to be more conservative on that. But here's the thing, Mark. Alabama have lost, I think it's like 14 assistants, 17 assistants, something like that. They've lost their offensive line coach. They've lost so many people. They've lost their 2 number 1 receivers. Who do they have? John Mechie the third is their number 1 guy, and he was high on something a few months back, ripping on Nick Saban on Instagram late at night. Like, that's their number 1 guy. That's their big high-powered offense, ready to bolster Bryce Young. I just don't see it. They're not loaded at receiver like we are. We're 10 deep at receiver. It's an absolute joke. John Trey Kirkland is like the 5th or 6th guy on the depth chart at receiver, and he just had a 200-yard game on that defense who had 5 picks today. You can go through and pick through the weeds here all you want about LSU having problems here, or a hole there, but when you look out and you see that defense just going on an absolute mission to turn around what happened last year, send a statement. That was the statement the fans wanted to see today. They didn't need to see 70 points or 60 points put up by our offense or whatever. They wanted to see the defense absolutely just dominate, destroy. And there was no way that offense was going to put up more than 25, 26 points today.
Our guy, it's just me, Tim 79, is just conjecturing that Alabama would be a 7.5 point favorite in the game against LSU. They are playing this year in Tuscaloosa, I believe,
which is where we love to be
alternate. I would put Alabama more in the 10 to 13 point range. That's what I think would be a fair point spread. I think LSU's, again, a tremendously talented team. I delivered earlier this week on my program rankings, not team-specific rankings and not historic rankings, but I rated the programs going into 2021. What I believe, based on the talent on the roster, the coaching staff, the head coach, where these programs stand right now.
Hell yeah.
I had LSU at number 9.
Well, I mean, I bet we'll be here's the thing. We're going to be very underrated. We're going to be very underappreciated because of how bad last year was.
Sure.
And that's the thing, is people want to see that, 2019 was no aberration, and that, what will happen in 2019 and 2021 will be, more of, and 2018. I'm gonna include 2018 as well. We beat number 2 Georgia. We went to I think it was the Fiesta Bowl and won that game as well. So, we are top. I think we finished in the top 5 or 6. So 2018 was a damn good year too. It's just that 28-0 shutout was bad. But that's the thing about Coach Orgeron. It seems like he's a genius at quick turnarounds. And today in the spring game, you saw that defense has a complete 180 from last year, a whole new culture change, a whole new intensity, and it's made up of the complete same players pretty much. Only Jabril Cox and a few other guys are gone from that defense. The rest are there. It's pretty much the same guys who crapped their pants and allowed 39 point something points a game and 400 something yards a game and 9.8 yards a pass play or whatever. Just bad just horrible performances. And they completely turned that around today. The defense is the thing that just sticks out like a sore, just unbelievable in your face. You can't ignore it. And so, yeah, maybe I was a little overexcited saying that we're going to shut down and destroy and dominate Bryce Young. But I love our chances against Bryce Young. Well, I'll put it that way. I think we have every chance to disrupt, to destroy, to dominate that dude in his own backfield. What we're showing with our interior pressure, Mark, we're using the speed of our outside guys to buy our inside guys time now. It's brilliant. Like, everything you've ever thought about defensive line play has been inverted, perverted, distorted, and just shoved right down your face by Andre Carter and this defensive line unit. They were showing some brilliant stuff. I want to get back and watch that tape at some point and see that defensive line flying around, because there was some brilliant movement going on there. And the pressures as well. The pressures won't be noted, but some of I think those quarterbacks were under nonstop pressure today. And the defensive backs, they weren't allowing anything on the outside, Mark. Anything. And that was with Dwight McLaughlin in there for Eli Ricks. And you had Jay Ward in his new position at free safety. So, and Jordan Tolles, I think, was starting over Todd Harris, who was, I don't think he played. I don't think I ever saw Todd Harris out there. I think he's actually back re-injured. You saw kind of a makeshift secondary, and they were dominant. This makeshift secondary was dominant. So when you got Eli Ricks back there, and you bring in either Todd Harris or if Jordan Tolles keeps that position, which he looked fantastic today, that defense, that secondary is so shut down, Mark. DBU is back, baby. That's what stood out as well, man. DBU is back. The picks were there, the pass breakups, but the one-on-one tackling from some of these dudes was sick. Jay Ward, he had the 7 tackles. He really stepped in at that free safety role in the tackling department as well.
You're reminding me that I need to attack this DBU topic at some point as well. So I'll post a video at some point. I will look at LSU, Florida, Miami, Ohio State.
No,
I'm sure has had the most draft picks in the last decade. I don't think there's any question about that. And Texas would be in the running, as well as USC.
Ohio State's had some great draft picks, but they've had some busts. LSU has been dominant in the NFL from secondary. Yeah, we've had a few, busts there and there, but most of them have been dominant. Tre'Davious White, nonstop Pro Bowler. Tyrann Mathieu, Super Bowl champion, nonstop Pro Bowler, and Brady, provocateur. And then you got Patrick Peterson. I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on and on of great DBs at LSU. I mean, Grant Delpit hasn't even played a snap in the NFL yet. He's going to be a great safety as well for Cleveland. I just can't say the same about some of these other schools who are trying to say this and that. Our guys are so influential at what they do at the next level. But yeah, DBU's back today, Mark. Today, Dwight McLaughlin came in, stepped in for Eli Ricks. What did he do? 4 pass breakups, leading the team, shutting down red zone passes as well. Max Johnson had a really, a sniper pass. I think it was to Coy Moore, and he was pretty much wide open. And Dwight McLaughlin recovered brilliantly and just snapped that out of it. Wow. Well, I'm sorry. It's true, Georgia fan. I'm sorry.
Best quarterback room in the country.
We do have the best quarterback room in the country. And 5 minins later, we are DBU. It's true.
Okay. So the DBU is certainly in question. Again, I'll have to review that. And we can take that on today or historically. You can make that evaluation historically, or you can say who's DBU right now. So there's a couple different ways to look at that. And then again, the quarterback room, again, I'll take a few other quarterback rooms. Regardless of whether
all the time.
Pardon me?
We're DBU all the time.
Yeah, again, I think it's off the top of my head, I think it's legitimately a serious discussion between LSU, Ohio State, LSU and Ohio State at the top, Miami historically, Texas, USC, Florida historically. But But for over the last 5 to 10 years, I think LSU and Ohio State would have the best defensive backfield, both in college and moving on to the NFL.
I'd put Ohio State at 2 because guys like Malcolm Jenkins, man, like someone like Malcolm Jenkins, what a career. Like, what an absolute machine that guy's been.
So I'll bring this up, not necessarily that it's meaningful or valid, but it is a point of discussion since it was released this week, just to get your feedback on the ESPN Football Power Index. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this, but I'll go down the SEC Western Division. So Alabama's rated as the best team in the country, and Texas A&M is 6. And to my surprise, I don't get this. I don't understand it. I think it's a joke, but Mississippi State is 8. And then we've got Auburn at 16 and LSU at 18.
Well, here's the thing. All you have to do is go back and look at what everybody said before the 2019 season about LSU, and just that's all you have to do. Go back and look what everybody said about Joe Burrow. Look at what everybody said about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Look at what everybody said about Coach Orgeron. Look at what everybody said about our receivers. Look what everybody said about our 29-year-old passing game coordinator and our 65-year-old offensive coordinator. Look at what everybody said about washed-up Dave Aranda. Look at what everybody said about everybody for 2019 LSU, and then just look at what happened. Look at what actually happened. And that's all I have to say about what's going to happen for 21 LSU and ESPN power indexes and all these decipherable rankings. The analytics tell us this. No, it means nothing. It means nothing. We played the games. We played the games for a reason. We played the games.
Phil, my apologies. Phil, a longtime viewer, supporter, contributor here. I did not mean to leave Florida State out of the discussion. I just forgot about Florida State. But Florida State is definitely historically in that discussion as well.
Yeah.
Deion, Jalen Ramsey mentioned there, Derwin James, Terrell Buckley, and others.
Yes, I love all 3 of those players. But here's the thing. Like, they haven't been consistent year in, year out. I will say Ohio State does get those draft picks year in, year out, like LSU does. So you can put them in you can put them in that list. But LSU takes the cake because of what the guys have done: longevity, production, accolades, championships. They've done it all. Interesting.
Do we have any other comments here for Lon? I was going to bring up the LSU and Ohio State NFL draft picks over the last decade or so. Phil B, can't wait for the Florida State LSU games of 2022 and 23.
Oh, those are going to be great games. I when those were scheduled for, I was like, yeah, I got to have some LSU Seminole action. I've always hated Florida State. There's just something about him, the only guy I've ever liked maybe it's just because they took Warwick Dunn from us, maybe that's what it is. But I've always hated Florida State, just something about them, I don't know what it was.
Now, there's no perfect way to do this, and we won't come to any kind of conclusion, but just to throw some names and some numbers out there, let's go back to an even year, 2010. How's that sound? And I've got the LSU draft list here. So just looking at the secondary, in 2010, we've got Chad Jones going in the 3rd round to the New York Giants. 2011, of course, Patrick Peterson was the 5th overall pick to Arizona. And Maurice Claiborne in 2012, 1st round pick, number 6 to Dallas. And then you had Brandon Taylor later in that draft, a 3rd rounder to San Diego. And you had a 4th rounder in Ron Brooks to Buffalo.
Ron Brooks. He was a great Tiger.
2013, of course, was Eric Reed, safety, San Francisco, 1st rounder. You had Tyrann Mathieu, of course, was the 3rd rounder to Arizona.
The King.
You also had, I don't remember this guy, Tharold Simon. He was a cornerback, 5th rounder to Seattle.
You don't remember Tharold Simon?
No.
He didn't get. I mean, I guess he didn't become too big of a player in the NFL. But I really loved what Tharold Simon provided for LSU. I swear he was part of that 2011 team as like a freshman, 2011 national championship team. My memory is telling me he is. If not, he was a freshman in 2012. But here's the thing. Tharold Simon, I thought, was a great Tiger. He's very underrated. He's a name that people are just not going to remember. But I remembered Tharold Simon as a great DB in my time. He was right when I was growing up watching. And
great.
Yeah, I can.
Great. Are we not throwing that term around a little bit loosely? Great. He was great.
Let's look up the numbers.
All right. That no defensive backs for LSU in the draft in 2014. 2015, you had Jalen Collins, 2nd round to Atlanta. And then in 2016, Rashard Robinson.
Tharold Simon had 7 interceptions, 95 tackles in 34 games at LSU. Was a part of the national championship squad. 13 pass deflections, 2.5 tackles for loss. Yeah, I'll say he was a great Tiger. 1 fumble recovery as well.
2016.
He was a great Tiger.
We had Rashard Robinson, 4th round to San Francisco. Jalen Mills, 7th rounder to Philadelphia. Then in 2017, we had Jamal Adams, of course, to the Jets in the 1st round. Tre'Davious White, who you mentioned, cornerback to Buffalo in the 1st round. Then in 2018, we had Dante Jackson, 2nd rounder to Carolina.
He's done great. No one expected much when he got in the NFL. I don't know how.
2019 was Greedy Williams to Cleveland in the 2nd round. And then 2020, we had Grant Delpit to Cleveland in the 2nd round. We also had Kristen Fulton in the 2nd round to Tennessee. And there's our defensive back list for LSU since 2010. I didn't count all that up, but that's just a review there. We got here Ohio State since 2010. Let's see what we got. Of course, I'll mention as I'm looking down the list here that Ohio State does lead college football in all-time draft selections and 1st-round selections. Just thought I'd throw that in. All right.
Do they in titles?
Pardon me?
Do they lead in titles?
Titles?
Championships?
Oh, championships? Well, that's Alabama.
Oh.
That's what Alabama tells us when they add on about half of them. All right. In 2010, Ohio State had Kurt Coleman, safety, Philadelphia, 7th round.
I liked him. I liked him as a college player. He was good.
In 2011, yes, he was a really good player. 2011, they had Chimdi Chekwa, who went to the Oakland Raiders in the 4th round. They also had Jermail Hines. He was a safety, went to the Rams in the 5th round. In 2012, they had a safety, Nate Ebner, went to New England in the 6th round. In 2013, they had no secondary players. In 2014, they had Bradley Roby, who was a 1st rounder to Denver. And they had Christian Bryant, a safety, to St. Louis in the 7th round. 2015, they had Duran Grant, a cornerback, to Pittsburgh in the 4th round. Then in 2016, they had Eli Apple to the Giants in the 1st round. They had Von Bell to the Saints in the 2nd round. Then in 2017, Marshawn Lattimore, a 1st rounder to the Saints. Malik Hooker, a 1st rounder to the Colts. Garyon Conley, a 1st rounder to the Raiders. Would that be 3 first-round selections in the secondary in the same draft? Has that ever been done? Okay. Then in 2018, we've got cornerback Denzel Ward. He was the 4th overall pick to Cleveland. And then in 2019, we've got Kendall Sheffield, cornerback to Atlanta in the 4th round. And then in 2020, this last draft, we have Jeff Okudah, who was the 3rd overall pick in the draft to Detroit. Damon Arnett, another 1st rounder to Las Vegas.
Hey, Mark.
And Jordan Fuller, safety in the 6th round to the Rams. Okay, go.
Who were those 3 first rounders in the same draft?
They were. This was in the 2017 draft. Marshawn Lattimore to the Saints, Malik Hooker to the Colts, Garyon Conley to the Raiders. I believe Hooker's been a bit of a disappointment, but the other 2 start and play well.
Oh, of course. I just wanted to rehash there. Yeah, Lattimore is absolute freak. He's an absolute freak. Here's the thing. I think most of the guys you just listed were busts. Eli Apple, he's kind of hung in there.
Mm-hmm.
LSU, though, you go back and you look at some of the guys we've had drafted years back, like Jalen Mills. He's still doing great. He was still doing great for Philadelphia this last year. So, I mean, when you look at the depth of LSU's talent, Thurl Simon was around with Seattle for quite some time during their Legion of Boom years. So, I mean, these guys were valued, were wanted by a lot of – see, yeah, Devin, how many of those guys busted? Exactly.
Yes. To answer, Devin, to answer your question, most guys who were drafted are busts.
Yeah, most guys who are drafted from Ohio State are busts. It's the truth.
No, but most guys, most players that are drafted to the NFL are busts. It's condensing thousands of players down to very few spots in the NFL. It's the nature of the mathematics. Most of them are busts. No, most of those Ohio State players have played extremely well.
Since Ryan Day became coach, yeah. Urban Meyer was kind of half and half. Half of his guys would be great in the NFL. Half of his guys are busts. And that's because Urban Meyer was kind of a crappy coach, kind of a mercenary coach. Ryan Day is actually a culture guy. Ryan Day is actually a character guy. I think Ryan Day is a hell of a coach. I think you could say he could be even 2nd or 3rd best coach in college football. He's a fantastic guy. I think since Ryan Day has taken over, Ohio State has improved in who they've put forth in the draft. And those guys' careers have been stronger because of that.
Well, I would say that it's too early to make that kind of declaration on Ryan Day's NFL prospects. He's only been the coach for 2 years. We can't say what his players have done in the NFL. And I would say that Urban Meyer, for being a crappy coach, does have the best winning percentage in the history of modern college football. Meaning, since World War II, the man has the best think whatever you want of him. He has the best winning percentage in the history of the game.
I get it. I know the success.
That's kind of what it comes down to, winning games.
I get it. But here's the thing: the guy would never stick around. The reason he has such a great record is because he bailed before he even. Oh, Mark, the guy barely. The guy is the king of excuses for leaving. The guy is the king of stabbing people in the back. The guy is the king of not staying around for long enough to even find out how good he could actually be, having to face adversity. The second there's adversity, he's gone. I have heart problems. I have to go. No, I think it was because of the culture of Florida that he had was an absolute stain on college football. Aaron Hernandez, letting that type of guy, fester, that type of culture fester. They want to try and crucify LSU, but yet Urban Meyer's Florida gets a pass. It's an absolute joke. If you go look at Florida's arrest record during Urban Meyer's time, it's an absolute travesty. You know this well, Mark. If you go look at Ohio State's problems as a culture when Urban Meyer is there, winning games doesn't mean a damn thing when you're talking about teenagers and trying to prepare them for life. This isn't pro sports yet. So don't treat it like that.
I don't know that we could go through Urban Meyer's 7 years at Ohio State and find much. I don't know what we would find. I know that there were some incidents with I don't even want to name the players because I think I've got the player correct, but I don't want to name him because I could be wrong. But there was an incident in which he hit a woman in a public place and he was suspended. Other than that, in terms of we're talking about players, we're not talking about the coaching incident with the wide receivers coach. We're talking about players.
Here we go. Two guys that that Urban Meyer recruited, Amir Reep and Jocelyn Wint, both committed a gang rape and were charged with rape and kidnapping. So,
yeah. Okay. We can find that with Nick Saban, Ed Ogeron, Les Miles. We can go through college football and find that with everyone. Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno. We could find that with
one. I'm just throwing out one.
Those players. We know that those players stayed on the roster when Ryan Day took over the program. So he didn't.
So both are culpable.
They were kicked off the team when that incident occurred.
Good. I would hope they would.
What are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to predict that these players will have those type of incidents happen and kick them off the team before it happens?
No, but you said
that's what's supposed to happen.
That Urban Meyer's players never did anything wrong.
I said that did not happen under his watch. That happened under Ryan Day's watch.
But actually, it happened from the players he recruited.
Absolutely. So everybody.
They're his players. They're not Ryan Day's players.
Nobody in this age of college football can recruit and sign and fill a 105-player roster with all choir boys. It's impossible.
No, and I don't expect that. Here's the thing. I'm not a saint myself. I don't expect that. But here's the thing. There's a big difference from, people getting drunk and getting unruly and smoking a little weed or whatever, or even having a severe drug addiction, and then violence and rape and attacking people. And you look at Florida under Urban Meyer and Ohio State under Urban Meyer, you got a few incidents that are extremely violent and extremely troubling. All I'm saying, I just don't like the way the guy did, what he did to Utah too. He could have just told Utah, after this year with Alex Smith, he's going to be gone. I'm going to leave. Instead, he told everyone who at University of Utah, "Oh, I am staying here for life." Like he's just an absolute liar. That's what he is. Some of his biggest supporters could not believe the way he lied his way out of that. So, that's all I have to say about Urban Meyer is just no respect. Some of the coach he backed and defended who beat his wife at Ohio State, that was an absolute embarrassment for the program as well.
My summary statement on Urban Meyer, and I'm not going to get into the latest incident because we would be sitting here for 3 hours talking about that, because there are two sides and there's more information to go through than just that. But would be, if you're the head coach at Bowling Green and you get offered the job at Utah, you leave Bowling Green to go to Utah, correct?
Of course, yes. But you don't lie to Bowling Green that I'm not going to go to Utah ever. I'm going to be Bowling Green's coach for life. You just say, hey, you know what? This is a huge opportunity. I'm going to move up the ladder. See ya. I don't have any knowledge of.
I've never heard that. I don't have any record. I don't see. I'm not saying that he didn't say that. I'm just saying that I had no knowledge of Urban Meyer ever telling Utah that he was going to stay there forever. But again, if you're the head coach at Utah and you get offered the head coaching position at Florida, you leave. 99% of the people are going to leave Utah to go to Florida. Okay, he takes the next step. All right. What went down at Florida is pretty much when you said that he does this at every stop. Well, he's had about 5 stops, and that would be the only one that is questionable in terms of doing that. I don't see the other ones. He didn't leave a bad situation at Ohio State. You said he always leaves adversity. He could have continued to win 12 games at Ohio State every year. He didn't.
He actually really didn't do that well at Ohio State in retrospect. I mean, he should have been a lot better with such a weak conference. Every time, I mean, how many CFP appearances, Mark? How many CFP appearances during Urban Meyer's tenure?
Well, first of all, CFP appearances
How many?
is
And you
is
can have a
a
shooting
skewed
game.
number. We understand
You
that
have a
they don't
shooting
they don't
conference.
they don't select college football playoff teams like they do NFL playoff teams. It's not an objective system. We understand that. It's a biased, skewed, faulty system. So they could have been selected other times when they weren't selected. So let's understand that.
Well, at the same time, Mark, they don't play in a conference like the SEC, where if you don't win the absolute, unless you're Alabama, you can't get in.
Yeah, well, you
The
could
Big
say that
Ten
for
is
anybody.
basically a play-in game, and yet how many CFP appearances during his tenure?
Okay. First of all, the first 2 years he was there was no CFP. So that cuts down his tenure to 5 years. There was no CFP. In his first 2 years, he went undefeated, 2012. But because of this situation he inherited, he could not compete for a national championship. It had nothing to do with him. He inherited a team on probation. He went undefeated. That was a horrible job he did, taking over a team that lost 7 games and going undefeated. I know that was a terrible job he did, to take over a team that was 6-7 and go 12-0. But he was somehow able to do that. Then in 2013, that was prior to the CFP, he went 12-2 and went to the Big Ten championship game. Okay, starting in 2014,
shut out by Clemson in the 2017 CFP semifinal. You know, I mean, and 2 CFP appearances in his time. Come on. You have
2 in 5 years.
2 in 5 years.
And he could have been selected 2 other times. He could have been selected every year that he was there.
They should have been. You're representing.
He could have been. No. I'm saying that he could have been.
You're representing the easiest conference.
It's not the easiest conference in college football. Lon, if you make that statement, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. If you're telling me that the Big Ten is the easiest conference in college football,
okay,
then you have not watched anything outside the SEC in 10 years. That's obvious.
I'll rank them. The SEC.
Just because you rank them doesn't mean that means anything at all.
Okay, they're above the WAC. They're above the Pac-12,
which doesn't exist. But anyway,
they're above the MAC.
Okay,
they're a weak conference, Mark. I mean, it's just too easy for Ohio State, and yet they haven't really gotten it done.
Okay. Urban Meyer won 91% of his games at Ohio State. Ed Orgeron will never come close to doing anything close to that.
Because he's not in such an easy conference where you're playing Indiana every week. Okay.
Okay.
Indiana, and then we have to play Mississippi
Lon,
State.
I'm sorry to say it like this, but you are showing your ignorance right now, calling the Big Ten the worst conference in college football. You are showing extreme ignorance.
From the Power Five? Out of the Power Five?
Yes. You think that the Big Ten is the worst conference of the Power Five?
I think the ACC is probably about tied with them. I think the Pac-12 is just barely worse than them. The Big Ten is the second to worst conference. My point is it's Ohio State's conference to lose every single year. Without question. Michigan aren't in their way. Michigan State aren't in their way. And yet still, 2 CFP appearances in 5 years.
Let's understand and establish one thing again, Lon. Do you understand the difference between a selection process and an objective playoff system? If we were talking the NFL and you said this team has only made the playoffs 2 times in 5 years, that's an objective comment. Do you understand that there is a selection that is made for the college football playoff system? So there are teams that are left out that may have just as good a resume. Texas A&M, for example, in 2020, could be argued that they earned a college football playoff spot and Notre Dame did not. It's not an objective system. Ohio State could have been selected for a playoff spot every year Urban Meyer was there. I'm not saying that they should have. They easily could have. They were on the 5 line with 4 teams selected every time. And I could make an argument that they could have been selected every year he was there.
But
they had as good a record and a resume as teams that made the playoff every year. Actually, the team that was selected in 2016 was the worst team he had, and they made the playoff. There were other teams that missed the playoffs that were better teams, that had better resumes than that team that missed the playoff. It's not an objective system. He put them in position to, yes. Was he perfect? No. And I'm talking on the field. I'm not talking off the field. Was he perfect? Did they lose games? Obviously, they lost games. Beat him up. He lost 9 games in 7 years. Sorry, he had the best record in college football over his coaching tenure. He obviously has no idea what he's doing and is a horrible coach and somehow lucked into winning 91% of his games, unlike anybody in the history of modern college football. All right. We started out with the LSU spring game post game. So is there anything else that that we missed that you needed to hit on?
No, I think we covered it all.
Awesome. All right, Lon. Well, thanks for jumping on. I appreciate it. I want everyone that wants more coverage on LSU football to head on over to LSU Odyssey. All right, Lon. Have a good one.
Peace out.
Appreciate it. All right. What else do we have here? Stats don't lie. I'm not here talking about Urban Meyer as a human being. Understand that first and foremost. That's not what that conversation was about. Lon made an ignorant comment concerning Urban Meyer. I don't remember how it got started. I did not start in on that. That Ohio State did not produce good NFL players under Urban Meyer. That's where it started. Yes. Guys like Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Ezekiel Elliott, not good NFL players. Yes, that's where the conversation started. Ohio State did not produce good NFL players under Urban Meyer. That's where I had to step in. And you guys know, for those of you who watch me on a regular basis, that if I have a guest on, I let them talk. I let them say whatever they want until it hits the level of insanity in which they are factually wrong or logically irresponsible and wrong. And then I jump in and I can't take it anymore sometimes. But for the rest of the time, I will even stand the hyperbole. Makes no difference to me. If somebody comes on and let's say they're a Stanford guy that covers the Stanford football team and they want to say that they're going to win the national championship this year, fine. That's not factually wrong. Might be a bit of a stretch. Not necessarily a lot of insight into the talent on the roster, but that's fine. That's okay. But when people don't know what they're talking about, then I need to interject. So that's what I do. Yeah, Michael Thomas would be a decent player, right? The most prolific receiver in the history of the NFL to date. Thank you, Marshawn Lattimore. Yes, he's an all-pro. Yeah. All right. Denzel Ward. Yes. Thank you. We could go on and on and on and on. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this fine LSU post game that turned into some kind of discussion about LSU and Ohio State. And again, when it concerns DBU, I didn't make a declarative statement there because I'm not the kind of guy that says that just makes outlandish statements without doing any kind of research. And I don't think it's necessarily, I don't think at all that it's a slam dunk definitive title DBU for anybody. LSU, Ohio State, Florida, USC, Texas, whomever. I think that it's up for debate. I don't think it's clear. Who's the most accomplished quarterback in the history of the NFL? Tom Brady. Okay, we can make that statement. I don't really think there's anything to discuss. He's the most accomplished quarterback in the NFL. DBU, it's a good debate. There's no one clear DBU. So again, when Lon said LSU's DBU, nobody's close, I have to take exception with that. And I wasn't saying that Ohio State is DBU. I don't know that they are. I don't think that we could come up with all sorts of parameters and metrics to, again, you can make your Florida argument. You can make your Florida State argument, LSU, Ohio State, USC, Texas, Miami for DBU. Best quarterback room in the country. Again, I'm not going to make a declarative statement on who has the best quarterback room in the country without some thought. So when Lon said LSU has the best quarterback room in the country, I just said, I don't think so. I don't believe that to be true. I don't think that LSU is the best quarterback room in the country. And then when he says that LSU is going to shut down Bryce Young this November, we'll see. That's not factually incorrect or correct. The game has yet to be played, but I will stand on my prediction right there. We can all jot down and keep these numbers. This video will be posted for as long as YouTube will have me. So we will have that prediction right there that Bryce Young against LSU is going to go 23 for 32 for 318 yards, 3 touchdowns. Might have been a little bit high on the yards rushing. We'll see. That all depends on how the game's played and how many times he gets sacked. So there we go. Drew, I have no issue with saying LSU is DBU. I have no issue with somebody coming on here saying Florida State's DBU or Florida's DBU. Of course, you're going to say that. I'm guessing you're an LSU fan. I would love to come across some objective fans and viewers that would say, you know what? I'm an LSU fan, but Ohio State's DBU, or I'm a Florida fan, but LSU's DBU, or it never works that way. So let's all understand that we're biased toward our teams. So anytime somebody comes on here and says Florida's DBU, or LSU's DBU, or Ohio State's DBU, I'm about 98% sure that they're a fan of that team. Dom, Raider Nation, Raised Royal. I'm seeing a lot of people here in the chat that I have yet to see. Georgia's the best team in the nation. Like, come on. I don't know. They were number 1 in my too early top 25. Alabama football fan, Roll Tide. I got to see most of your spring game. And Alabama football fan, Roll Tide. You probably missed me sticking up for your quarterback. Devin, Oklahoma is the best team in the country from an LSU fan. Okay, Devin, very nice. LSU fan who says Oklahoma is the best team in the country. Man, I won't be shocked if that comes true this season, but I want to see it first. I have seen the SEC beat up on Oklahoma long enough in the playoff, Clemson as well, that I want to see it happen. I got to be convinced of that. But I wouldn't be shocked because I think Oklahoma's going to, I think they're going to come to 2021 with the best team that we've seen, top to bottom, offense and defense, put together. The offensive coordinator, of course, is Lincoln Riley. He's the best in the business. And Alex Grinch is amazing, and he's done remarkable things with that defense. So I think Oklahoma finally may have a fighting shot against an elite team in the playoffs. Yeah, and Tennessee, punter you. Yes, they probably are. They at least punt the most times. I don't know if it's the most effective, but they get to punt the most. All right, Uncle Lou. Mark, to be fair, you've argued that Mullen is better than Kirby, so Corndog Lon isn't the only one with potato opinions. Yes. I did rank Mullen one spot ahead of Kirby 1 year in my coach's rankings. And then as you gain more information, then you possibly change your rankings. I have not ranked the coaches in the SEC, but I'll stand by my rankings and opinions along with anybody else. I think that if we would go through my videos and my posts throughout the years, I will certainly stand by my opinion across the board against anyone. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else? And at the point that Dan Mullen, I made that ranking, Dan Mullen had taken over a team that went 4-7, and they went 10-3 the next year. Then they went 11-2, and then they beat Georgia and won the division. Kirby Smart took over a program that was in much better shape, and he has lifted the program. There's no question about that. And Kirby Smart has obviously mismanaged the quarterback situation there, and that went into my analysis as well at that particular time. And Dan Mullen, of course, did a nice job at Mississippi State. I don't think anyone would argue that. All right. Anything else here? Oh, Devin, thank you so much for the super chat. Sorry, I did not see to acknowledge that. Georgia has no national championship since 1980. And I know Uncle Lou likes to hear that. And so does SEC Dog. And again, I could pile on when it comes to that, but I don't play an act. I don't spout opinions or pile on certain programs or teams just to have fun, which maybe I should at times, but I pretty much spit it out what I believe, and I think that that's fact tells us something. I don't think it's that meaningful. I think national championships, especially from the time that we're referencing 1980, certainly until the playoff era and even into the BCS era, are skewed. There again, it's an invitational. It's an invitational. For every year of the BCS, I can tell you what teams could have been in the BCS championship game that were robbed. Not robbed because the team that was selected was better than them or not as good as them, but that it's just a stupid system, a faulty system that, again, we could go through every year of the BCS. And that's why national championships that's why you're out there playing, but they're awarded. They're not completely earned. You have to be given an opportunity to win a national championship in college football. And that's just an idiotic system that we have to tolerate. But the teams that win the national championships earn the national championship. The point is that there are just other teams that are not selected to participate. And going forward, we certainly need to do something with the group of 5. Include them or don't include them. Make up your mind. Are they included? Are they not included? This is the issue with nobody having charge of college football, is that nobody can make a decision and nobody has that decision-making power to say, we are building a playoff system that includes the group of 5, or we're going to build a playoff system that excludes the group of 5. Nobody has that decision-making power, because that's the first decision that needs to be made. Because right now we live in a system where we wink at the group of 5 and we tell them, yeah, you're included. We consider you, but really we don't. When we go into the conference room and lock the door, we don't give you a chance. We don't include you. You have no chance in hell of making a playoff. But we're going to patronize you and make you feel good and put you in our little rankings. But you don't have a chance, and you're really not considered. Oh, you're undefeated? UCF, you're number 12. You're number 12 in the pre-college football postseason rankings in 2017. You're number 12. You're undefeated. You're number 12. Cincinnati, you're number 9. Okay. To climb up those other 5 or 6 or 7 spots is just never going to happen. We've had, I think, 5 undefeated group of 5 teams since the playoffs started, and none of them have come anywhere close to the playoffs. So if we're going to continue with this playoff system, that's the first thing that needs to be decided. Include the group of 5, exclude the group of 5. I have built a system taking both paths. I can handle either outcome. I can get behind either outcome because I think it's either one's justifiable. I don't even think that there's always a clear-cut decision. Just like when I listed my top programs 1 through 130 the other night, and I've got Ohio State 2 and Clemson 3. A couple of people called. They were upset that Clemson wasn't 2 and Ohio State 3. And I said, no, I don't think you're ridiculous. I don't think it's not a quality discussion or debate. I'm not saying Ohio State is clearly the second best program in college football and Clemson's number 3. Somebody said Clemson's number 2. I'd say, I get it. Conference champions. Wow, that's a novel idea. Conference championships. Actually include that? Really? Is there a reason? That we actually play in these conferences? Dom, I'm good with that. Auto qualifier from the group of 5. I'm good with that. And I'm also good with a system that says kick them out. They go play a different brand of football, have them play their own playoff. All right. Good discussion in here. Alabama football fan, roll tide. Yes, I'll take some likes. I will take some likes. All right, SEC Dog. Mark, I was impressed with JT Daniels' post-game G-Day interview. He looks like he's ready to lead our team. So there are 2 things that concern me about Georgia football. So when I listed my way too early top 25, I put Georgia number 1. I know that's not conventional. Number of people were going crazy. Georgia hasn't won a national championship since 1980. They've been coming close. They always let down late in the season, lose a big game, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But I had them rated as my best team in the country. Again, not my final prediction, but at that point. Well, that was prior to the George Pickens injury. That's not necessarily just going to automatically drop them from my number 1 spot. But I would have to, before I'm comfortable predicting Georgia to win the SEC, which puts them, of course, in position in the playoff to be the number 1 team and just win it, because I do believe that the SEC is the best conference in the nation. I don't think there's any question about that right now. I wish there was a question just for debate purposes. But that the secondary concerns me at Georgia. And what I heard out of our guy, Palmer Toms from 247 Sports the other day about the long-range impact possibly of the injuries in the secondary, I'm really going to have to get a handle on that before I place my confidence in Georgia. But that's how I felt after the last season was over, that Georgia was my number one team. Dom's top 5 teams are Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Oklahoma 3, Alabama 4, Clemson 5. Ooh, wow. All right, all right. Anything else on here? All right, folks. Appreciate you jumping on to enjoy the conversation with us on LSU's Spring Post. We did Ohio State earlier and Miami. I may come back later, depending on if we can pull together another conversation concerning another team that played spring game today, whether that be Auburn or Mississippi State or somebody else. All right. Otherwise, I will most likely see all of you on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, and I will be knocking out those videos in the meantime. See you soon. Thanks, guys.